What if the best way to get someone to do something was to tell them not to? What if the fastest way to make someone want you was to stop wanting them back? What if the most powerful move you could make in any situation was the one that looked like you weren't making a move at all? This isn't manipulation. This is psychology. And once you understand how it works, you'll never look at human behavior the same way again. Most people think reverse psychology is a trick, something manipulative parents use on stubborn children, something toxic partners use to create jealousy, something salespeople use to close deals. And they're partially right. Reverse psychology can be used for all of those things. But what most people completely miss is that reverse psychology isn't really a tactic at all. It's a description of something that was already happening inside the human brain, long before anyone gave it a name. The real question isn't how to use reverse psychology. It's why it works on almost every human being on the planet, including you, without them ever realizing it. In 1966, psychologist Jack Brame introduced one of the most important concepts in the history of behavioral science. He called it psychological reactance. The theory is simple, but its implications are profound. When a person feels their freedom of choice is being threatened or removed, their brain doesn't comply. It rebels, not out of stubbornness, not out of immaturity, out of a deep, evolutionarily wired need to maintain autonomy and control over their own decisions. The moment someone tells you that you can't have something, that thing immediately becomes more desirable. The moment someone tells you that you must do something, your brain begins looking for a reason not to. Brame's research showed this response is automatic, universal, and almost completely unconscious. You don't decide to want what you're told you can't have. Your brain decides for you. And reverse psychology works precisely because it understands this mechanism and works with it rather than against it. Here's where it gets genuinely fascinating. The most effective applications of reverse psychology aren't the obvious ones. They're the subtle ones, the ones happening around you every single day that you never noticed. Every time a brand says, "This product isn't for everyone," they're triggering reactance. Suddenly, you want to know if you're one of the people it is for. Every time someone says, "You probably won't understand this," your brain immediately wants to prove them wrong. Every time a person becomes suddenly unavailable after being very available, your attention snaps toward them with an urgency you can't quite explain. The scarcity isn't real, but the desire it creates is completely real. And that desire, that sudden, irrational, overwhelming interest in something the moment it seems just out of reach, is psychological reactance doing exactly what it was designed to do. Nowhere is reverse psychology more visible and more misunderstood than in romantic relationships. Research consistently shows that people rate potential partners as significantly more attractive when they perceive that person as having options, as being chosen by others, as not being immediately available. This isn't shallow. This is evolutionary psychology. The brain interprets social proof and scarcity as indicators of value. If everyone wants them, they must be worth wanting. If they're not chasing you, maybe you should be chasing them. But here's the truth most people miss about using this in relationships. The most powerful version of reverse psychology in love isn't pretending not to care. It's actually not caring, genuinely investing in your own life, genuinely becoming someone whose attention is worth having, genuinely having options because you're not making one person your entire world. That's not a tactic. That's self-mastery, and it works more powerfully than any game you could play, because it's real. But here's where we have to be honest about something. Reverse psychology, like any psychological tool, exists on a spectrum. On one end, a parent telling a child they probably can't finish their vegetables, and watching the child eat every last one to prove them wrong. Harmless, even playful. On the other end, deliberately manufacturing jealousy, insecurity, and emotional instability in someone you claim to love to maintain control over them. That isn't psychology, that's manipulation. And the line between the two is always the same thing: intent. Are you using your understanding of human psychology to create genuine connection, to protect yourself, to communicate more effectively? Or are you using it to control, destabilize, and diminish someone for your own benefit? One is wisdom, the other is abuse wearing an intellectual disguise. The most powerful thing reverse psychology teaches us has nothing to do with using it on other people. It's recognizing when it's being used on you. Every time you feel a sudden, inexplicable urgency to have something the moment it seems unavailable, pause. Ask yourself, is this genuine desire? Or is this my brain responding to the removal of a choice it wasn't even sure it wanted? Because the person who understands psychological reactance doesn't just know how to trigger it in others. They know how to recognize it in themselves. And that awareness, that moment of clarity between the feeling and the reaction, is where real freedom lives. If this changed how you see the invisible forces shaping your decisions, share it with someone who needs to understand why they always want what they can't have. Subscribe to Mind Patterns. Because the most powerful mind in any room is the one that understands what's happening inside it.